I just saw something that said the content for this meeting is being sent to a third party. I guess he's moving it over, right?
Okay, we should be live and we should be live streaming.
Okay. We do have 6 board members present either in person or via Zoom, so that's a form. First order of business is the consent calendar. Which includes the minutes, which Celia has circulated, treasurer's report, which Ethan had circulated, and the BAIP report, which Celia circulated from the weekend and then added reference to the email that BAIP sent out earlier today. Does anybody have any suggestions, corrections, comments on any of those three documents? Nobody?
Paul?
We're all good?
We accept them.
Gary moves that we accept those documents as circulated. Is there a second?
Yes.
Are there seconds? Aye. Amy? Is Amy and I?
Yes, Amy's
Aye.
All right, that was quick. Lauren and Isabel, we have not met. My name is Hetty Campbell. I'm currently the chair of the Block Association. Thank you for joining us. I think we're all very interested to hear what you have to say.
Sure. Well, thank you for having us. And Hetty, it's nice to meet you and the others in the room that I have not yet met. I had the pleasure of meeting Peter and Celia a few weeks ago, and they've since invited us to join this meeting and helping with some other things, including putting a little blurb about the hostel in the newsletter, which we're very appreciative of. My name is Lauren Brown. I'm the Director of Development for High USA, which is the umbrella organization for the hostel in New York City. We have 14 hostels around the country, and I'm responsible for fundraising for all of our hostels, including our programs, as well as when we do capital projects and renovations at the hostels. And I'm joined by my colleague, Isabel Cruz. She is the General Manager of High New York City Hostel. I think several of you all know her. So Isabel, I'll give you a little bit of time just to talk about, what's happening at the hostel and, kind of occupancy and general updates.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to do a quick review of how the hostel is doing, and the hostel is doing great. Our overnights have made full recovery since the impact of COVID. Over the past year, we have consistently grown. We've welcomed over 200,000 overnights, which we're super excited about. For the last 12 months, 24% of that has been domestic travel and 76% international travel. The hostel continues to offer meeting and event spaces to our neighbors and the community members. We have 2 beautiful banquet spaces here at the hostel, one that accommodates about 100 people and the other one about 160. We provide discounts to non-for-profit organizations as long as reduced pricing for our local community members. And we're happy to be able to bring that product and partner up with the neighborhood.
Cool. Thanks, Isabel. In addition to all of that, some of the things that have returned to the hostel since COVID are guest programming. So we have a lot of volunteers from the neighborhood who are involved in that. And we do everything from, pub tours in the neighborhood, karaoke nights, welcome parties twice a week at the hostel, as well as local tours like food tours to Queens, a tour of the Lower East Side focused on immigration, offerings like that. One new thing is that since COVID, we have restructured those offerings to be led through an experiential education lens, meaning that every activity has educational objectives, right? So the idea is not just that you're coming to see the city, but you're coming to really experience it and learn about something. And then 75% or more of all of our activities are through a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens, right? So wanting to make sure that people see all of New York and the kind of diverse offerings that the city has in different neighborhoods and, not just the things kind of on the beaten path, right? So if there are ever any individuals in the community who are interested in volunteering with us, we always welcome new volunteers. And the great thing is that our volunteers can either just slot into one of the programs that we have or build their own program, right? So if someone's really interested in parks, right, they could build a tour around parks. So that's a great offering that we have for the neighborhood as well. One of the things that I talked to the bid about and Peter and Celia the other day is that we have some restoration projects coming up for the hostel that are really critical and we're seeking capital funding for. So as I think you all know, it's a historic building built by a renowned architect, Richard Morris Hunt, in the late 1880s. So, and it's preserved, thanks to our neighbors and thanks to Columbia University students who helped save it from demolition. And we have a few projects. So it's replacement of windows. It's 200 windows that we need to replace, tuck pointing in between the bricks, and then a couple other kind of like maintenance things. So this will be probably a 3-year project and estimated at $6 to $7 million. There will be additional needs, beyond that. This is phase 1 of the restoration. And so at this time, we are seeking funding for those projects. And some of the individuals in this group are helping us, try to get government funding for that. But if anyone's ever interested in, talking about those projects, learning more about them, or helping fund them, we of course are very appreciative of that. We will work with the Block Association as we, get closer to these projects to make sure you all are aware of any impact to the exterior of the building, the sidewalks or the neighborhood, anything like that. But again, this is a ways away as we're just in the planning stages and funding stages of these projects. At this time, I do want to make sure that we have time for questions. So are there any questions either for Isabel or me about the hostel?
Did you say 200 windows, Lauren?
Yes.
200 windows. That's
Yeah.
a lot of windows.
I could ask questions all night. I'm fascinated. I also have a history of traveling, especially in Europe and staying in hostels. I guess some questions, how many rooms are there? What's the total amount of accommodation you can handle? And also what's the cost of staying in the hostel? What's the demographics of those people who do stay? Is it largely youth, as the name suggests, or is it all ages?
Why don't you pause there and let's get.
Yeah, so that's a start.
Isabel, do you want to answer
So we
this?
have 101, yeah, sure. So we have 101 rooms. We have 724 beds. I'm trying to think of the other question that you had. Demographics, 18 to 29, 18 years old to 29 is about 40% of our business, and 30 to 54 is about 33% of our business. And length of stay, I don't think you asked that, but it's about 3 to 4 days.
The price, the cost, yeah.
What was the other question?
Cost of staying for a night.
Cost of stay, it varies depending on the season, but it can be anywhere from about $35 to about $75, depending on the season and the product that you choose, which can be anywhere from a 4-bed dorm to a 12-bed dorm.
And then we also have 3 private rooms as well. So they're family rooms. So they've got, I don't know the exact structure of each, but I know they have queen size beds and then bunk beds as well. So you could have a whole family stay in that room.
Yes. And that the cost of that room is approximately about $250.
And what is the capacity of the shared rooms, and what is the cost for the community to rent those rooms?
So the
Yeah.
capacity have, it can be anywhere from a 4-bed dorm up to a 12-bed dorm.
No, the banquet rooms,
Banquet rooms.
communal rooms.
So the banquet room, so we have 2. There's one that the capacity is 100 and the other one's 163. And then the hourly rate is about $250 and we have a 3-hour minimum. And if you're a non-for-profit and it's about 25% off. And if it's off-peak hours, then you can get up to 50% off.
And what percent of your revenues come from people staying for the night versus other forms of revenue?
Repeat that one more time.
Of your budget, how much of it is coming from people staying versus funds that you're raising through donations or other or events or other forms of revenue?
So I can answer for the organization as a whole. So this is not just for the New York Hostel. For the organization as a whole, about 90% is overnight stays, group stays, space rentals, that sort of thing. And then about 10% is from fundraising.
I have a question about what you said concerning volunteer opportunities and tours and such. I have a friend who used to be a tour guide for the Central Park Conservancy. And she loves the park and she loves to talk about the park, but she's no longer involved with the Conservancy. So for instance, she could get in touch with you, offer her services to lead a tour at times that are convenient for her. You would set it up within the facility and everybody's happy.
Yep, exactly. And in fact, we have a current volunteer who leads a Central Park tour, I believe weekly. But what's always great is to have a backup volunteer too, right? If that person is on vacation or sick or busy one week. But yeah, that's exactly the type of tour we offer, as well as the type of volunteer that we often have, right? Someone who maybe is retired, loves welcoming people to the city, knows a lot, or is really passionate about a certain topic, right? And just wants to talk about it. So yes, you're welcome to put them in touch with me. And I don't know if it's best if I send my contact information after this. Peter's also has my email address and is welcome to share it too.
Thank you.
Mhm.
We're about to publish.
I have one more question, which is I've lived on the block for 20 years and I feel like I haven't had as much connection to the hostel as I would love to. I'm curious what your ideal state would be in terms of the hostel's relationship to the neighborhood and vice versa.
Isabel, any thoughts?
So in terms of, for the most part, the guests, we always try to invite the community into the hostel, right? And we have opportunities such as what Lauren mentioned through volunteering. But for folks to actually stay in the hostel, typically what we focus on is for travelers, right? But we partner up with Parks to Park Open, and if there's any events that are happening in the community, we try to bring those folks into the hostel. But outside of that, in terms of the stay, that's where it becomes a little bit tricky, because ideally what we're focusing on is really the community of travelers.
I would also say too, we have a lot of offerings that are not necessarily specific to the New York Hostel. So we offer travel scholarships to young people who can't afford to travel or haven't had the opportunity to travel. And so they get $1,500 to travel in the US and 4 to 7 nights complimentary stay at any of our hostels in the US. We also offer an international travel scholarship, which is $2,500, and they can stay at one of our international hostels. So something like promoting that in the neighborhood too would be really great. We also offer cultural exchange programs as well. So, just kind of being a forum to connect the community to all the ways that they can engage with the hostel or with our concept, beyond just the New York Hostel, even though New Yorkers are not allowed to stay in our hostel because we want it to be for travelers who are coming to visit the city. They are obviously allowed and welcome to stay at any of our other hostels, right? So any kind of like cross promotion, we want to be a source for promoting the things that happen in the neighborhood, right? So like promoting the restaurants and the bars in the neighborhood, and like we do karaoke in the neighborhood and promoting bid events. We would love for that opportunity to share our offerings, like our memberships, you know, with the neighborhood and with the Block Association as well.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, for the benefit of the people on YouTube, you know, how integral the hostel has been to a lot of activities. We had Bloomingdale Bites there. The the Bloomingdale Neighborhood History Group has, you know, sold out, absolutely packed presentations that are generally at the hostel. Free Parks Democrats, you know, it's a very long list of community organizations that the hostel partners with. They were indispensable, and thank you so much to Isabel and the hostel during the hosting the kids and everyone else during the asphalt art installation on the shared street, and fully participated in that, as well as the CB7 hearings leading to the street. So the hosteling is involved in many community-based activities and events, and I can't say enough good things about them. And as stewards, the place is absolutely spotless. I mean, Isabel and her crew, you go in the stairwells and it's just beautifully maintained. They are always welcoming. They do a wonderful job managing their staff, and the enthusiasm of the guests and people who are staying there just makes you feel alive. So people should go visit, and it's, you know, it's kind of like the Miracle on 103rd Street. And we're just so fortunate that this was not only saved from demolition, but the reuse of the building has been such a stunning success.
Well, thank you for those comments,
Thank you,
Peter.
Appreciate that.
We hope that you all as neighbors too, you know, appreciate the variety of people from around the world who we bring to the neighborhood too, and, you know, getting to interact with all those different types of people, right? So thank you so much. I know we're coming up on our 10 minutes if we haven't gone over. So I want to say thank you to the Block Association board for having us today, and for all your support in the past and currently.
Keep in touch if you have ideas for how we can cross-pollinate. We're always open to hearing them, and if we can participate and facilitate and make it work, we'll do our best.
Sure. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
We need to move on. All right. Next item on the agenda. On the agenda, it says residential permit parking event, but that should actually read future of our streets event. Gary, tell us how you're doing and tell us what you need from us.
Well, it's, we managed to, I think, make a reasonable transition to next month rather than this month. And I think I felt really divided by it, but, and so did the three panelists who said, look, if, you know, this is.
Gary, could you speak up? It's very hard to hear you.
About that. Panelists, I think they each felt that they had made a commitment to it, and would come, but you know, they also, since they had a great deal to do with the congestion pricing, the success, wanted to go to that event. So it's the transition's been made. I did get a call the other night on the 6th from the people over at the Marseille. I'm sorry, I keep thinking of it as Marseille, and two people had shown up that
Oh, really?
somehow connected with the fact that Gary, only two, so Rich has been tracking how many people we have signed up. It's somewhere over 50 and below 100. So I think we can, the question was, should we also be telling others who publicize this, that they can come to it? And I think the answer is yes, because I think it'd be nice to, have somewhere at least 50 and,
Fill up the row.
yeah, fill up.
We're at 48 RSVPs right now.
Okay.
Okay, so I have permission to tell Steve Anderson he can promote this to the other block associations and not limit it to Zoom. They can either come in person or be on Zoom. Is that right?
Yes.
That was a yes.
Yes. And
Thank
should we
you.
do another mailing to our list, just reminding them of the event?
I will, but I'm not going to do it right now because it's still a month away almost. So I think, what do you think? Well, the newsletter is going to come out hopefully the weekend before, but I can send an email blast, say the last week in February. Is that too late, or do you want, what do you guys think?
Yes.
I think 10 days is always a good interval.
Yeah.
Gary, I have a congestion pricing question,
Yeah.
and I didn't want to submit it for that particular night because I don't know that it's an appropriate one. But the thing that I've been thinking about congestion pricing is that I'm aware that there's a provision in the design of the program so that if you come out of the, I think it's called the Hugh Carey Tunnel now, the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, you're not charged to get onto either the West Side Highway or the FDR.
That's right.
Why isn't there a similar provision for going, let's say, from the West Side Highway into the Lincoln Tunnel or vice versa, and for the Holland Tunnel as well? It seems to me that if all of the traffic is going to be diverted up to the George Washington to avoid Lincoln and Holland, it's going to create all kinds of a mess uptown and further deepen the divide between people who can't afford and will go north and people who don't care about the extra $9 or whatever it is and will still go south. Wouldn't it make more sense to have a corridor for each?
That, I don't know the answer on that.
Right.
Because I actually understood that you get a discount if you go through the.
You get a discount,
And that offsets in part.
but not entirely.
Not entirely.
For the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel, as I still think of it, you're not charged.
Well, charge one way on that.
You're charged the tunnel, but you don't get the congestion pricing.
It could be that the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel lets you off so you can get right on the highway, whereas with the Lincoln or Holland, you're forced into city streets and there's no way to
Yes.
separate out the traffic.
That's, I think that's the right answer, but Sam Schwartz can answer this definitively for
Well,
you at the.
Carl Weisbrod ran the committee that set the thing, so he could answer that.
So is that an appropriate question
Well,
to be asked?
What I would not like to do is to have the whole thing devolve into
A congestion pricing.
in the weeds
Yeah.
about congestion pricing, so send me the note. What I'm doing is taking, I have several questions that Amy asked, I have Peter's questions on it. Rich, if you're gonna send me whatever yours are, see the same. If you send me your questions, so I'll aggregate them. What I'm planning to do is the next several days, I've been taking pictures of a number of things on our streets, and I'm gonna start the program by taking no more than 15 minutes to go through about 10 images of issues that there are on the streets, and they include parking issues, but they also include garbage collection and the sort of mounting amount of it, and a number of other kinds of questions. And I will have just one image for each of them, and as a way of kind of focusing it on the set of questions that I think we might want to start with on this. Then each of the panelists will speak for 10 to 15 minutes. And I promised them that I would send out to them those images and also questions that I had from board members that they can think about before the session, so that they focus their talks on things that, you know, are on our minds as well. And then we will have 40 minutes or so to have question and answers and et cetera. I think I still want to go with the idea of having cards that we hand out to people, which
I have a
write their
pack set aside
questions
for
on. And because I don't want people getting up and doing 10-minute talks in answering their questions. And there'll be a lot of duplication as well. So while they're speaking, I'll try to pick out the questions that are ones that others haven't asked. Looking forward to it. A good chance for us to see to what extent our members turn out and are interested in these kinds of issues, because I think if this works, we'll try another subject.
Celia, you had said you didn't mind sitting at a table where people were signing in.
Great.
Gary, at some point toward the end, I guess, you'll make an announcement about compost buckets being available for people who want to
Yes,
pick them up on the way out.
Yes.
We'll have newsletters
Better make a note on that. Sure.
and envelopes available.
What time do you want us there to help set up and everything?
I think it shouldn't take us more than about 20 minutes or 15 minutes to set up the chairs and rearrange things at the table. Also, Rich, if we're going to do the technology on it, and so if you come at 5:30 or in 5:40 or somewhere in that range, I think that would be fine. Carl has a bit of a conflict. He's got a meeting that immediately precedes that, and he said he thought he could be there by 6:15. So I thought we would get started at 6:15. Probably we never start on time anyway.
The only issue with that, I agree, that probably wouldn't, no matter whether everybody was there or not, start right on time, but there will people sitting on Zoom for 15 minutes. That's a long time to wait for a meeting to start. So I don't know how you want to handle that. I mean,
Yeah.
just
Office nearby? I'm sorry, you said it was Carl, who has the call right
Carl
before?
has, yeah.
Does he need an office right nearby so he
No, I
can,
think it's some kind of a meeting that he has to travel from somewhere else in Manhattan,
yeah,
get there, and
In person.
in person. That's right.
Can you start your part of the introductory remarks before he arrives?
I could start it before. He'll have seen that stuff and we're gonna send it to him before. Yes.
Okay.
So let's see if we can get started at a little before 6:15.
Until 5, 6, 10, you'll be able to read the room and, pick off as you.
Right.
And
Um,
and someone's going to bring index cards.
yeah, already on the pile.
and is someone on point for collecting cards and screening them to give to Gary? Because if you're moderating, you're probably not gonna wanna have to screen cards as well. And if we have questions both online and on cards, someone will have to manage the questions to get to you.
I could look through the cards. Can you do the ones that come in through the Zoom?
Yeah, we'll have to figure out how to get them to you, Gary.
I'll come check you and you can drop them
Yeah.
in on index cards.
Yeah, that's a good question.
That's the kind of thing where Rich could actually ask
In
those
progress.
questions.
If you're watching them, then why don't you read the question that they're
Yeah.
asking?
Right.
Yeah,
Rather than transcribe them.
okay.
Hetty, in response to your question about the tunnel, I know when they were first examining congestion pricing, every possible group was looking for a carve out for themselves, whether it's motorcycles or teachers and they really tried to keep it so that there wouldn't be carve outs. So I think asking about specific tunnels or that just gets into that whole question of like what carve outs might there be.
Yeah, I think there's another issue to it as well, which is they wanted actually to have a kind of safe route through Manhattan for people who are going, you know,
The
just
extremities.
to the extremities, and so the West Side Highway was easy to do because, you know, there aren't two different directions to go from the highway, and they were having to put the cameras up along all the streets anyway, and so that was logical. I think the FDR drive is also allows people to drive.
Right.
Yeah.
like that.
But for instance, to get from the West Side Highway into the Holland Tunnel, you travel a very short distance
Yeah.
on Canal Street. But because you've traveled that very short distance on Canal Street, you get the congestion pricing.
That's right.
And yes, you do get a rebate once you pay the tunnel toll,
That's right.
but it's not even Steven, it just gives you
Yeah.
a break. All right, let's continue. Peter, what were you saying about Daniel and Michael?
If Daniel and Michael are still here and they have something that they wanted to, that was on the agenda, like the security update or anything like that, maybe you want to let them.
Move them up on the agenda.
And then they can say goodbye.
Okay,
I'm only showing Amy online.
Yeah, I think they signed out.
Okay.
Okay.
Never mind.
never minding.
I did get a note from Daniel saying he'd like to give a briefing of where they're at with this thing, so maybe that he's gonna do that to each of us, or I don't know. Strategy
Or maybe it's an email.
came today, so.
Okay.
I did not see that, so it came to you as a contact person.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Which is fine. It didn't come to me either. So.
I wasn't sure whether he was doing everybody.
I signed the check.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did
I
say, although they
remember
haven't, they have not sent us. a invoice
Did
yet.
we
So-
identify somebody who was willing to act on an interim basis as the go between?
It was just, we were looking for somebody that's why we were trying to recruit Joan
Right,
to like look at the survey.
but I didn't remember if somebody had volunteered
No, we
on
don't
a
have,
temporary basis.
no,
Okay,
no, the temporary basis, it's people on the board. I thought it'd be,
it's
Good,
whoever
we had-
Daniel writes to.
if we had a non-board
Right, we
person in addition, yeah.
Okay, moving on. Gary, if you think of anything else that you need, please don't hesitate and figure it out.
Thank you, I will. I'm gonna be away for 4 or 5 days later this month, so if you want to hear from me, so. I haven't dropped off the end of the earth, just went to Canada, that's all.
All right. Any other thoughts about the event? Moving on.
Just again, tremendous kudos to Gary. It's a fabulous event and amazing lineup.
Great.
Well, I think it's terrific that we've sort of figured out a way to use the Eventbrite system and the rest of it, so it's a kind of, thank you for all that help. Yeah.
Teamwork, gotta love it. Next item on the agenda is annual meeting. I had received a response to my email to Micah, from Micah, suggesting a date at the end of March. And then after that, I got an email from his staffer Ruben suggesting a date in April. And I had said, you know, of course, whenever it is that Mike is available is when we want him. The date that we are discussing currently is Thursday, April 10th. And although I've said yes to Micah's staffer Ruben, I just wanted to make sure everybody was aware and take a quick poll of who's available and who is not. Rich is shaking his head.
It's both like
I'm gonna be out of town April 10th.
Amy, no.
I'm double booked already.
Okay. Celia, Gary, Peter. Makes the 10th. Okay. Unfortunately, if we don't do it then, Passover begins on the 12th, I believe, and that's gonna, I think, knock out a week. I don't like us to book on any major religious observance, and the 18th is Good Friday. And then
Does it have to be a Thursday?
No. Well, it's gonna depend on Micah's calendar.
Yeah, but like the
As-
Tuesday, the 8th is already our,
That's our monthly meeting.
can we do it then?
We could if he's free.
My birthday.
We'll see.
Or any other day that week, 7, 8, 9?
I. Yeah, something like that.
Thoughts, anybody? Tuesday, the 8th, since it's already our meeting, it gives us a little less time in terms of meeting time to prepare. We would only have March before it.
Mhm.
We could delay till later in April.
That's what we wound up doing last year.
Yeah.
Don't remember.
And that worked out. That was-
Do you have anything planned for Earth Day already, the 22nd?
No. And we're just doing the solstice to kick things off this year.
Okay. Okay, so it seems like if both Rich and Amy can't be there in person, an email to Micah's office saying something else perhaps?
I mean, I would say go ahead without me. I don't know how Rich feels, but if that's the only date he can do it, I can always join by Zoom, assuming that my plane has landed by then. But
Because Rich does our tech, I think it would be great if he
Yeah.
was there to do that. you
Yeah.
know.
Right.
Couldn't it be reversed? First ask Micah what, propose. an
Absolutely.
alternate, and
Yeah.
then
Bring it back to us.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
So-
think later,
Special guest.
later April is better anyway, because, I think if we're gonna do what we did last year, which is to also discuss, what our agendas will be for next year. So
we need a little time to do
we
that.
need a little time to
Yeah.
do that, and,
right, I was gonna ask, I mean, Hetty, I assume we're gonna try to do a neighborhood Hall of Fame, and then Gary has to do his budget and all of that, right?
On the newsletter.
Right, I already mocked up something for the newsletter, but we need to be able to plug in the date for the newsletter. That's,
I had written to Ruben earlier this week. Maybe it was Sunday, checking in. And let him know that we had a board meeting coming up. But haven't heard back, so I'll just write him again and say, we have conflicts on our board and we need plan B and what's gonna work, what's next best.
For what it's worth, 22, 23, 24, 28, 29, 30, and 1 all work for me. So Amy, I don't know if you're back by then.
What, or?
yeah, I'm only going for a long weekend in April.
22 to 24 and then 28 through May 1 are all good. I don't say the 21st because my phone is saying it's Easter Monday.
Okay.
I don't know if that's the day Easter's.
No, Easter's always Sunday.
Yeah, is it a holiday? Like, is it?
It's not a public
Yeah.
school holiday.
In England, it's a holiday.
Yeah.
I don't think
So-
he's really upset.
It's not a conflict.
Okay,
I
then
know.
21 would work as well.
I think we should avoid it though, because, it is a holiday. And some people take a 3-day weekend as a result of that.
I'm not sure what the private school calendar looks like. It may be that they're still off that day. All right, I'll circle back to their office and see what we can do.
Oh, I have one more, Hetty, sorry, one more question, which I brought up to you, but last year we did include in the newsletter, for our when we announced the annual meeting, we also invited people to apply to be on the board, to nominate people or nominate themselves. Even if we don't actively go out there looking for people this time, I think we should include that same language for anybody who might be interested. Is that okay? It would basically be the same language we used last year. Is that okay with people?
I think we should open it up for people who want to either want to self-nominate or have a group nominate.
Okay.
Another related question is we were contacted by the Upper West Side Cinema Group that's trying to get the Metro on track to be an art house again. Offering, did we want them to come and make a presentation to us? And they weren't specific about what they meant by us, whether a board meeting or it occurred to Amy and me that the annual meeting might be an opportunity for them as well.
That's a great idea.
Peter's in favor. Anybody else have thoughts on?
Agree.
Agree?
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so once we iron out the date, we could tender an invitation to that.
Daniel actually mentioned at the meeting that Celia and I attended at the hospital, that they're also working with that group.
Do we have an update on the status? I forget the menu for the new newsletter, but are we giving an update on the status of that fundraising effort?
We're not, because one of the organizers' father died and things kind of slowed down. So we're going to do something in the June newsletter, which the new deadline to buy it is April. They are absolutely sure they have the money now, but it won't be official until the April date. So we'll have an article about it in June that will announce that and then talk about the next phase of fundraising.
But they don't need more donations.
They will always need more donations
So
because
maybe
after buying it,
better-
they're then moving on to building it.
Right. So I think if we wanted to include in the newsletter that this is still pending and point people in the direction in case they didn't do it the last time, but they still want to, that would be a good use of space.
Okay, I'll write something up for that.
Or just take a look at the last one and tweak it a bit.
Right.
All right, any other annual meeting related?
Do we want to invite Isabel to give a 5-10 minute overview of the hostel?
We've got Micah, we've got the movie house. Is it too much? Is it not too much? I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. Kind of, I feel like the more different things we have, the more we're likely to attract people who might not be interested in one thing, but they would be in another.
And she was very succinct in her presentation.
Yes, she was. We kept to her timing very nicely. And they are doing interesting things that I think people don't know about.
Yeah.
Would she know about the meeting any other way?
Depends on if she gets our emails or reads our newsletter.
Well, I mean, I just like her to be invited, not necessarily to speak, just let her know what
Oh, I
we're
see.
doing.
Let's start with Micah and the date
Yeah.
and consider that as a possibility. I'm making a note. You know, for that matter, do we want to give time to the bid? If we want to open it up to all the community partners.
I would actually prefer that we spend more time on programs that we're doing or that we're contemplating doing for the next year, so that we actually can engage people. I mean, I think we should have a a nice succinct presentation of the street to clean and all of that stuff that we.
Keep it more about us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll have something then about the security systems in the neighborhood from based on that work that they're doing. And I think I prefer to, to rather having just advertising organizations.
Okay. We don't have to decide at this moment. We're gonna start with Micah and we'll go from there. Next item on the agenda is the spring event. Shoria, who had started the effort to have the event last year, had agreed to participate again this year. I wrote to her and asked her if we tweak the event into a different thing, like the longest table format, would she still be interested? And I haven't gotten a response from her. We got an email from somebody else saying interested in spring fair, and I wrote her back saying we might have it, glad to know you're interested. If we were going to do it this way, would you still be interested, and are you available to help? And she seems to be more interested in participating if it's our regular yard sale format than a food thing, but we may be able to redirect her. And we will be including in the newsletter that this is what we're working on, and get in touch because we need the bodies.
Were there any other thoughts here about the longest table as an event?
I thought it was a great idea to do. I've seen these events in other places, and one thing that we might contemplate is to have it largely be people bringing the foods to it, and then have competitions. Best chili down here, best salad here, and et cetera, in each of the sections, and that way give people incentives to come and also to participate in producing the food.
It had occurred to me that if I had been thinking about, could we involve neighborhood restaurants, so other than people bringing their own, but I think we move into a completely different sort of category permit wise.
Well, yes and no, and that's what, I think if you work this in conjunction with the bid that, works with a lot of the restaurants already, that you might be able to do it. But I think, obviously this was at a very early stage of an idea, but I would definitely involve the bid in this as an event. And and also because you can do a lot of things on a shared street that you can't on a normal street. So you can take advantage of that as well. But I think working with the bid and a volunteer coordinator like Sheree, is that how you pronounce your name?
Shoria.
Shoria, yeah. Working, Shoria, this would be, if she wanted to work with the bid and the restaurants, or they understand what's involved with, obviously, the bid bites and all of those things. So it could be a combination and a contest and all of that. And it seemed that the longest table, what they did was really quite brilliant. They provided this template and this framework for somebody to go in and actually do the work and the organizing. And I think the bid would be very interested in doing that with restaurants. And so, all we need is people, but it's kind of the kernel of an idea that could be a lot of fun. And I also like it because it's, it's very different from what 104th Street is doing. And they do their version of the yard sale, so well. I mean, it's just, they're experts at it. So why not send the yard sale interested people their way, and they can send the foodie, longest table oriented people our way, and with between that and the restaurants and the fact that everybody loves food, it could be a wonderful event. Not, hard, a lot of work, but it could be a different and wonderful event.
So I love the idea. The question I have is how many people might show up and how many of those people bringing food would be able to accommodate more than even 10 people? Like it's no small task.
To work, yeah.
And that's where restaurants are just better
Yeah,
equipped
that's true.
to prepare
Right.
dishes that can be consumed by more than a handful of
Right.
people.
I think perhaps the way to tweak that, and since we don't even have somebody who's willing to run it yet, let's not
Yeah,
get too lost in the
Right.
details. But it could be that we structure it as a bring a dessert to share. Or we structure it as a, we'll also have a taste thing, a taste off, what do you call it,
Yeah.
chili competition, whatever, but limit it to one particular thing. I think because we're not controlling hygiene standards, but we're sponsoring the event, we've got things to pay attention to.
Does anyone know the rules for having just commoners bring food to be consumed by the public? Are there?
There are rules, and again, I think Daniel, who both, ran a restaurants and works with all these restaurants, and they have done these food events, would probably, but yes, there are definitely regulations
Yeah.
and
I've read them
street
for
codes and-
selling stuff like at a farmer's market.
yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine that, I would actually hope that if you were to have a street event where just people from the community are baking chili for 100 people, or whatever it might be, that there are regulations to
Yeah,
protect the public.
it's a good idea to have the regulations.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'd be a little scared for us to just serve food from whomever.
Unless and until we get some people who are willing to be the point person, there's not very much we can do, so we're gonna put it in the newsletter that we're seeking people, volunteers, and we'll see what we get, and then we can start fine tuning how we're gonna skin the cat, but not serve it. Next item is co-op event.
But we don't know if someone else is.
Exactly. Next agenda item is what I mentioned last time about a co-op event. That is going to be a newsletter item. We'll see if we get any traction on it. Gary, do you happen to know if we actually did get a donation from 885 in the amount that that invoice was for? It would have been, I think it was 560 or something like that.
I'll have to go back and look at it,
Okay.
how we disposed of it. I have an impression that we actually posited earlier money that they gave us. Before the question was raised as to whether whether that was enough for the group. Let me just check it out. It came at the end of the month, as I recall. We deposited before we started discussing how much they should be giving us on it. So I'll check and I'll let you know.
Thank you.
I don't think we've received anything above that.
My phone battery is at 50%, so depending on how quickly it drains, we may need somebody else to hotspot. I don't have a charger with me.
What kind of phone is it?
It's an old iPhone. It has the lightning, but not the USB-C, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Amy, newsletter?
Copy is rolling in. Thank you to, I think, everybody in the room for participating. Rich, I just wanted to ask you for an update on your interview with Mika. How's that coming?
So I did the interview on Thursday. I have a recording and a transcript. I actually, for the fun of it, within 5 minutes of the interview, ran the transcript through ChatGPT, which wrote a pretty good article, which is not what I'm planning on turning in. But I need to
You're
just
killing me. You're killing me. You're putting me out of business. with your
you know,
ChatGPT.
within 5 minutes, I took the recording, ran it through and got a transcript of it, threw it into ChatGPT, and the article's pretty good. I'm going to be doing my own article. I just need to take the time to write it up.
Okay. I don't know how much space we have for you, hopefully enough. So,
I thought you had said 750. Is that?
someone
thinking-
said that. I probably didn't, but someone with knowledge said that, then that's fine.
Okay.
And we'll certainly work around it.
Mhm.
Okay, so other than that, I don't think I had any big newsletter questions. Obviously, we'll need the date of the annual meeting before we push the button to print it. And we're aiming to get it out the weekend before the panel so we can promote that. And that's it.
Thank you, Amy. Amy, do you have anything to say about CV7?
We met this morning. There is a new head of sanitation for our area. It's no longer Brian Quinn. It's I don't know where I put the name. It's someone else who's who they've started meeting with to talk about various issues with. And other than that, I don't think there's anything new to report from that group.
Thank you. What's the new sanitation guy's name, do you know?
I wrote it down and now I can't find it, but I can send it to all of you.
Okay. Security survey, Peter, in the absence of Michael and Daniel and Joan and all the other people who we would like.
Well, they just sent, Gary a report, so I think we'll wait until the next meeting to have a further update on that.
Okay, and by the
Oh.
next meeting, perhaps the help that's going in the newsletter will have
Yes.
formed.
Hetty, I have the name of the new sanitation person. His name is Glenn Baldwin. And he's been with the sanitation department for 11 years. He's not new to the whole thing.
Thank you. Peter, talk to us briefly about shared streets
Um.
and or street love, separately or together. You
Okay,
choose.
so the weekly events are going fine. We got a street cleaning today even with the snow, and we actually picked up a lot of trash. Which included 3 people from the halfway house here and youth ambassadors and COBID and 2 other volunteers. So it even in cold weather, we're doing that. We're doing quite a bit of street cleaning, and that's going well. The big holdup in terms of rethinking any changes to the shared street has of course been the construction. The 2 NYCHA sites that are under heavy construction are at 868 Amsterdam and across the street from the Marseille on the Broadway to West End Avenue block. The 868 one is coming to an end. They took down the shed over Amsterdam Avenue and the fence and all of that. They started disassembling that last week, and they were still working on that today. So that does look like it's being wrapped up. They were working, there was still quite a bit of construction going on today when we were doing the street cleaning at the Broadway to West End site. So I'm not sure. That's clearly behind schedule. It was supposed to be finished in December and it's not.
We were told July now.
I'm sorry, say again?
We were told July.
Oh, okay. I
But
wasn't-
I'm not sure if that's accurate. The person who told me that talked about it as the Douglas Restoration Project.
Yes,
if-
well, this is called, the row houses on 103rd Street on the Broadway to West End. It's called the Douglas Addition.
Okay, because when I looked up that term, she didn't say Douglas Addition, she said restoration. That was something on 101st Street. I couldn't find what looked like those buildings anywhere on the site, but maybe it was just me. So maybe I'll forward it to you, Peter, and see if you can find it on the site, because supposedly we can look it up and see. I couldn't figure it out.
Okay. Sure, be happy to help. So, when that's, when they're, DOT has, they know we need to have a discussion and we need to look at potential modifications in the future based on some feedback, but they want to wait until the mess of the construction is behind us a little bit more. So there's nothing really new to report on that. I did send an update that I copied Amy and Gary on today, asking for a meeting for DOT and letting them know that the construction looked like it was wrapping up on Amsterdam Avenue. So, they're aware that they need to keep an eye on this and what some of the issues are.
Okay.
I once learned, when I was a much younger architect, that when you ask a builder when he's going to be finishing a project, you ask him what year. He'll tell you July, and it'll be finished in July. But a year later.
My husband's rule of thumb is double the estimate and then add 2 weeks more.
Yeah.
The conversion from Celsius to Fahrenheit.
Look at that. All right. Anything else?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you for your brevity. Liability insurance is next up. So Amy has gotten the names of a couple of brokers that other buildings have used. I found the quote that we got. Thank you, Rich. I did find that email. As well as 2 other quotes that we had been given. This is not a topic that I personally know very much about, including the various terminologies. I don't feel qualified to be the one to do the compare and contrast and figure out who's got the best deal for us.
Can I make a suggestion?
Go ahead.
At the cabinet today, I asked the other block association people whether they had liability insurance and who their broker was. And I got 2 names. And one was, these are people who would compare quotes. So they would be doing that work if they're the broker. In any case, a couple of years ago, I'd asked my co-op what the quote was for $1 million worth of liability, and it was something like $2,000 or $3,000 a year. Steve Anderson, who's the West 81st Street Block Association, said they got a quote, also $1 million liability, and it was $600 a year. So
What your building paid is $6,353.
that was my building?
Yep.
Okay, so we're talking about a huge difference for a block association.
But they're different coverages. Block associations, it's different. It's not a building.
Right, so we'd be looking for block associations, so the numbers are going to be much lower. But what I was going to say is I'd be willing to contact 1 or 2 of these brokers and just talk to them and see how they operate and see what they come up with.
That would be great. What I'm thinking is once you've done that, maybe after our various events, the panel, the annual meeting, we target a spring meeting, whether May or June, and have whichever broker you find most, I don't know, informative, reliable, clearest, whatever you determine, to come and tell us, these are your options, this is what it means, and we make a decision.
Okay. Sounds good.
It's something that I think we really should have in place. Next is bylaws meeting date. Like to set a date for our next conversation about bylaws. I have not incorporated the changes we discussed last time, but if I know I have a deadline, I'll do better at accomplishing that. Our next meeting is March 11th. What about either the 18th or the 25th? Anybody have conflicts? Anybody of March? Rich, were you checking your calendar?
Yeah, I ended up in February 18th, which doesn't work for me.
No.
March 18 and 25th are both good.
Peter, Gary.
There is, Street Love and the 24th, the Community Council, the 24th precinct, that both on that day, but,
I thought the community council was always on a Wednesday.
oh, actually, I also have it on there as Wednesday. Okay, I think you're right.
I was looking at Tuesdays just because Tuesday seems to be
Yeah.
like we usually
Yeah.
do what we do.
So, yeah, after Street Love,
I can't do it on the 18th, I can't do it on
25th.
the 25th, yeah.
Amy,
Those dates look fine to me.
you're so close, you don't need me anyway.
I want to be as inclusive as we can. So let's say the 25th for next bylaws meeting date. I'll check with Ray to make sure it's okay to meet here. And we'll make sure that I have made the changes as discussed last time, flag the outstanding stuff.
7:30.
Yeah, sounds good. Good. New business, PayPal changeover. Ethan communicated that he had discussed it with Gary and basically at this time, never mind.
I think that's right. There's a, I think you all got the note that Ethan put together after we talked it through and as irritating as as PayPal is, the only thing more irritating is having to transfer all this stuff to another group. So all of the people who pay now through PayPal would have to then
That's right.
sign up for a new organization. I don't know how many we'd lose as a result of it. And the reasons for making the change were it's a little more user friendly. It's a newer kind of routine that they have, and they also it is much easier to transfer who is the owner of that account from person to person, because as it stands now, neither Ethan or Celia or I are the owners of that account. It's
David, you
it's
said.
David, that's right. And every time I get a monthly report or other things, it's addressed to David. So, and the rest of it, but we can live with that, and I think we should just
But
not
it
worry.
comes to you,
It comes to me.
even though it's in David's name.
David's name. That's right. So we're suggesting that we stay put with this. If we do find that, the other thing that the alternative account does really well is to go to events and be able to input, charges to that, which PayPal doesn't do very well at all.
Right, but Square does,
Square does.
and we have that now,
And so we have it for that, and so we'll continue using it for that. And,
so we can have two systems for different purposes.
that's right, yeah.
Okay,
The other thing I was, while I've got the floor here, I want to say is that we had a good month last month. It surprised me, actually, that usually you get a lot of things in December, we got quite a few things in January, so. Even though we paid for half of the Street Love project last month, we actually only were down by about $570 over the month. And if you look at the bottom line on it, we have 25,000 that's sitting in the high income, high interest account that should be added onto this to have our total picture, but we're about where we were 12 months ago, even with all of the new things that we've done this year and the additional charities that we gave to, et cetera. So I think
That's
we've
great.
had a good year.
Yeah.
on
They like us, they really like us.
it.
Next item is merchandise. It's been on my list for a while. Usually I think about it in terms of when we're going to have a big event so that we can either sell the item or use it as a premium. Sign up today and get your free whatever it is. Because we already will have the compost buckets at the upcoming Future of Our Streets panel. We don't need to figure it out right away. If we want to have something at our annual meeting, we do need to figure it out pretty soon. We can wait till March. Amy noticed that at the 104th Street Block Association, what did they send the email about today? Mugs? Amy? Amy, can you hear me?
Lost her, I think. Lost the.
I thought I just saw.
Amy?
Maybe I have it in my email. I saw it today too.
We can't hear you, Amy. You're muted.
Oh, I couldn't unmute myself, sorry. That might be a positive for some people, but anyway, it was mugs. They had these really cute mugs.
Coffee mugs, $12 each. It's their logo, which is a beautiful old-fashioned street light with their logo. I have it if anybody wants to see. They use that same logo on t-shirts and bags and stuff. So give some thought. We'll bring it up again for March. By then it will be old business. What should we get? I think it should be something relatively low cost, so people who are inclined to buy it will. We are putting our logo stickers on the compost bucket, so that's one thing that'll be getting out into people's homes. We've done the wide bottom tote bags. They were very successful. We don't have any left that are now being used for newsletter distribution. You know, we could do one of those very foldable, throw it in your bag, grocery totes. We did COVID masks. I don't think we should do those again. I think we all don't want to wear them anymore if we can avoid it. So think about it. I have a guy.
Is the goal for this to be a fundraiser? Is the goal for this to be a memento for doing merchandise?
I think we could use it for both. That let's say somebody paid up an annual contribution for the first time.
Mhm.
Have your free whatever it is. Or if it's a regular contributor, here, would you like to buy one of our whatever it is? We've done it that way at when we've had the street event, yard sale. There was a promo to get new contributors onto the rolls. As well as if somebody says, oh, I want to buy one. Okay, give it some thought. We'll talk about it in March.
I just want to make sure it makes enough money to be worth the hassles of storage and distribution and sales.
Right, I don't think we need to use it as a fundraiser, especially given what Gary just said about the state of our budget. But I think in terms of visibility and awareness of us as an organization, you know, something is a good thing. And we do have closet space here. I haven't been up into it in years. Amy, have you been in the closet in a while?
No,
Okay, I wonder if there's room to store something up there. We did coffee mugs years ago. They were good. We did dry erase boards that people could put on their fridge. They were magnetic. We did t-shirts. I've always thought we should do some aprons for ourselves at events so that we are easily identified. We've had baseball caps. But, you know, everything was so long ago that we could certainly do any one of those things again. All right, any other old or new business?
I just wanted to bring up, Hetty, the issue with that crime that happened between 100th and 101st.
Thank you, yeah,
Do you know any more about it than what you forwarded to me?
I do not. Next week, Wednesday, I think is the community council meeting. Peter, is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
Are you planning to attend it?
Hey, it's on my calendar, so I hope so.
Okay. A neighbor of mine sent an email asking if I had heard anything about this incident, and I had not. Amy, help me with the memory thing. Where did it happen? West End?
It happened on the east side of Broadway between 100th and 101st, where a person was assaulted and robbed in the middle of the morning. I think it was like 10:15 a.m.
Yeah, that's what it sounds
And
like.
then they were told by the police that there's a gang that's going around doing this. And that's all we got. And, you know, we have no way of, I looked on Nextdoor to see if anybody had reported it. I couldn't find it, but I just am leery about putting in the newsletter until we really know whether it happened and what the details are. So if Peter, if you do go to that meeting, maybe you can report back to us
Peter,
about
I'll forward to you the thing that was sent
Okay.
to me.
Yes, Wednesday, the 19th is a community.
Okay. Any other topics? I've now scribbled so much on my agenda that if I had made a note of anything I wanted to bring up, I'm not gonna find it.
Let me ask just a factual question that I need for this little presentation that I'm doing.
Don't call it little, it's big. No, it really is. It's
Yeah.
exactly the kind of event that we should be doing on a regular basis.
How many housing units are there in 6 blocks?
2,000. We print 2,100 newsletters. We distribute almost all of them.
So 2,000, okay, that's fine. Yeah.
I've always used, I don't know if it's right, but what I've always used as a population count is 5,000. Because there are families of 4 and there are singles. And went for the middle.
Oh, I have a question. In the past, we've been very successful in bringing people to events if we asked BAIP to publicize it. Do we want to ask them to publicize this? If they're willing to do it?
Have no objection.
Fine with me, yeah.
We
Okay.
might say Zoom only.
Well, I mean, if I'm gonna offer it, if we're gonna open it to everybody in the block associations all over the west side, I think BAIP, we should offer that they can come in person too.
Yeah,
I mean, in every case, we'll say priority goes to block association residents. And I think, you know, the week before, Rich can look and see how it's shaking out.
It's gonna be hard to deal with priority. It's like when we have a small universe of people we're inviting, we can, and when we're limiting it to people in our turf, it's easier to have priority. Once it's open to all the block associations, it's a public event.
I think we can create a certain first come, first serve situation by, let's say you gave it to BAIP. and then waited a few days and gave it to the block associations. It would give the BAIP members a little head start for priority, which I think makes sense. What's the territory of the block association group?
You mean the BAIP? No, the blocks, they range from 68th all the way up to 112th. I mean, I don't even know who's on his mailing list.
Okay. So
Um,
my thought is let's do BAIP first because they're just 96 to 110.
yeah, I mean, look, we could just say it's Zoom for the the larger block association thing, if we're concerned about it, because we don't want to be in a situation where people have RSVP'd and they arrive and then we say there's no room, which is what happened with Bloomingdale Bites. So I mean, I'm actually not sure how to handle it, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, but we know who's coming based on the Eventbrite RSVP. So if their name's not on the list for having RSVP'd, then they just have to wait and see if there's gonna be room, depending on if the RSVPs have shown up.
Right, but so then Rich has to look at it, and when we get to a certain number, cut it off. But I mean, he's made the point, rightly so, that half the RSVPs are probably not going to show up. So what number is that? It's just, it's hard to
Well,
anticipate.
what did we say capacity is?
100.
So maybe we cut off RSVPs at 150, which is still, there's a good chance we still wouldn't get there. But by going beyond where we are right now, I think effectively we're saying it's a public event. We're no longer screening. It's first come, first served to RSVP. And then it's a question of, we can spread the word to the block associations or to BAIP. Another group, either open plans or transportation alternatives, I'm sure would generate a lot of people who'd be interested. So it's a question of, like, do we want to make that we're making this an open event? Anyone who hears about it is welcome to sign up, and then maybe spread word to certain groups, but it's first come, first served. And again, I think it's Gary's call again.
Well, I think the idea of going to BAIP first makes sense, and we'll see what kind of numbers come from that. Then if we have room, I wouldn't open it up to the citywide organizations, because they have a different kind of agenda that they're trying to do. I think if we're not filled up by BAIP and our block association, then why not send them to the other
Block association,
block associations?
the West Side Block Association.
So
That-
can you give me some idea of the timing we should,
I would do BAIP. So
for like 2 weeks, give it to them and then wait for, okay. Now, we've had a little problem sometimes with getting them to actually send something out. Do you have a connection there, Hetty, that you would recommend?
I think it's Gene Schmidt, the president. Or you could write to David and see if he says, send it to Gene Schmidt.
Okay,
And if you write to David, say, Hetty said I should write to you.
okay. So I'll wait on the block associations.
Yeah, it makes
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, in the end, we can always just give them the Zoom thing.
Has it gone to 104th Street?
No, that's a good idea. I should, I can
do
send it to
them.
Steve Zirinsky also.
I think they're first, BAIP next,
Okay,
and other West Side Block associations after that.
okay.
Anybody else? Anything else? West Side Federation
No, the coalition.
that we used to belong to, that we don't belong to anymore. Is he that guy?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was a different one. They were third.
Amy, are you still there?
Yeah,
Oh, is it Steve Anderson who you're?
yes. And what, they have a newsletter, but I think it just came out. So he said they would promote it. If the next newsletter comes out before our event, they could put it in that. Otherwise, they'll promote it with their other devices, this social media stuff.
That's the same Steve Anderson as the Association of Block Associations, right?
Yes, it's through them that he would be promoting it.
But what's the relationship of that organization to that coalition that we belong to, then we didn't
It's the
belong?
same. It's the same.
Ah. Have they reoriented?
No.
Yeah, and Steve is opinionated.
Okay, you know, he's on the CB7 cabinet, so
Let's see what happens with 104th and BAIP.
okay.
One bridge at a time.
And Rich, you'll just monitor it and let us know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got a lot done, team. No.
The other list to hit up is ours. Like if we're looking to get bigger numbers, going back to our list and saying like we move the date, we have more space. We'll get more people.
Right, it'll be another reminder and people
Yeah.
who didn't pay attention.
Well, what's interesting is the last thing we said was spaces are going fast, and I think that got people to jump in because they were worried about losing the space. That was before we realized we had as much space as we do.
So if you wanted as a subject line, you could say new seats available or
Right.
however you want to target it. But yeah, our list first, BAIP next. Coalition of Block Associations.
I think we're doing West 104th first, then BAIP. Right, and then our list is going to get it anyway, 10
Right.
days before the event.
And it's gonna be in our newsletter too.
Right.
So people who aren't on the list may be late. People who received the newsletter but are not on our email list may be late joiners. And I think anybody who RSVPs with an address within the block association, we should do our very best to squeeze them in person if we can. Even though they may be late because of the newsletter distribution.
Maybe we hold back 10 or
Oh,
20
right.
seats, yeah.
Good idea. We'll go up to 89. No, you're going.
Which would mean that for the newsletter, it just gets complicated because we'd be sold out. Like if we get there, and I don't know if we will, but if these other groups churn out a lot of demand, but we want to hold seats for the newsletter,
Right.
we'd have to be sold out. So we put a code in the newsletter to get a different class of seats. How do we want to handle that?
I think we're overthinking it. Those people can just, if we're sold out.
Yeah.
Zoom is always the.
Yeah.
Right?
If it just shows up, we'll deal with it.
Yeah.
All right, we need to clear out to line 15.
All right.
Somebody want to make a motion?
Motion
Second.
Would you be more?
to adjourn.
All those opposed? Yeah.